Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta on this kind of a warm fall morning. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. It feels like something may be happening after the service. I am Reverend Nick Filzen. I have used he, him pronouns. I'm very privileged to have created today's service with Chris Palmer. We're getting a little last minute assist from Janaea Filzen, and of course, musician Robyn Macey has been an integral part of making this morning become, and of course, all of us together, we here in this space, we are making this moment holy, we are making this moment sacred. We are building beloved community, which is something that we are tasked to do in our mission statement. We come together again and again to create a beloved community, acting with compassion, reason, and respect, empowering us to promote a just society. If you are a visitor this morning, welcome. We're very glad to see you. You're always welcome here with us. We'd like to invite you to fill out a blue card that, in a seat pocket near you or in front of you that if you will give back to the greeters as you leave today, we'll be able to stay in touch a little bit easier with one another. And just this morning, if you want to stick around a little bit after the service, come over to the common room where we'll have some coffee and some other treats. We'll start getting to know you in conversation. We'll of course know you by that orange name tag that the greeters gave you. Whether you're here for the first time or the 1,000th, I sincerely hope you get what you need today. We have just a few community building and sustaining highlights to share with y'all this morning. First, Robyn Macey is calling for folks interested in singing in the choir on Christmas Eve as we get our choir program rolling again. You can either come up to her and chat with her after the service today, or if you want to send her a note by email to let her know that you're interested, you can email her at music@uuaugusta.org. Again, music@uuaugusta.org. And if you've sung in the choir in the past, you can probably expect to hear from her. If you haven't already done so, Daniel, the Chromecast is off. If you haven't already done so, I highly encourage you to check out the work the UUA Article 2 Study Commission has done and get involved with that process. They've done a really great job of drafting some proposed new UU principles and purpose language, and they want you all to be a part of that conversation. They've really done a good job of being democratic about the whole thing. And if you look at the link that I sent out recently on Realm, that I'll send out again this coming week, you can see the process they've gone through, see some really great language, but also they'll give you some good guidance about how to kind of interact with that, this new content in a really graceful way. Thanks to Alan George for amplifying our Thanksgiving dinner this week. He sent it out on Realm. If you're interested in joining us at church for that, some great food and community on Thanksgiving Day, please fill out the sign-up sheet linked on his post with the last few announcements, or follow tinyurl.com/UUCA Thanks 22. The following Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 26th, we're going to do our annual hanging of the greens to kind of beautify and make this our space here feel very holy for the holy days. Anybody who's willing to help, please join us at 11 a.m. that day. We'll have some homemade cider to share with anybody who attends. But if folks want to bring other seasonal treats, you're more than invited to do so. And now, Ministerial Search Committee Chair Dee Medley has one more important announcement to share.
Yeah, this was the search committee that kind of wandered around a bit because we had a temp and then we had a search and we couldn't have a normal search because of COVID. But we interviewed several people and there was one that just absolutely, we loved him. We absolutely loved him. And we discovered that he had many other, I don't know if it was many, but I know he certainly had other opportunities. And so we figured that he had gone off somewhere else. And then we heard he called. He told us He wanted us, and he is here. Today at 12:30, we are having a vote to bring him as our settled minister, which means that I guess we keep him until we get sick of each other. Which I think, it may not happen in my lifetime, I hope. Anyway, we will be having people sign in because we have to have a certain number, we have to have a quorum. And anyway, there will be someone taking note. You can sign in as you leave the service. There's a table set up, and our church secretary, Pat, and probably a helper will allow you to sign in. So don't forget to stay. The meeting is at 12:30.
Quick correction, since we're doing secret ballots and everybody's gonna get a little piece of paper to vote, go ahead and just sign in on your way back in for the meeting. That way you don't have to keep track of your little pieces of paper, and we have them numbered to make sure everything adds up. So, Jerry.
What about those who have already voted?
If you've already voted online, you don't need to sign in. You'll come in and sit on this side, and you'll be an observer. You already count in the quorum, and so you'll observe the final vote and the final tally. Thanks.
I indeed chose you, and I continue to choose you, and I hope that you continue to choose each other as we move through all the pieces of our lives, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the celebrations, the grieving, whatever we may come across. Now may we reflect on those things as we fully enter worship this morning.
The chalice lighting today is from President Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek.
Please join us for our opening hymn as we sing of hope and joy, hymn 1060 in the Teal Book.
And rise in body or spirit. As we sing of hope and joy today, some know only anguish and despair. How can we lift our voices in this way, while some have pain and misery to spare? If a crumbling world we would renew, we must sing no ordinary song. Peals from a noisy gong will never do. In every breath compassion must belong. Let this song our greatest hopes contain, laughter of a well-fed child, its tune, roofs over every heartbeat, its refrain, its harmony from peaceful cities hewn. Sing of joy while hammering each nail, sing of hope while pulling every weed. So shall we sing together and prevail. May every alleluia bear us seed.
Good morning, everyone. 6 years ago, we had an election that made a lot of people anxious and frightened and scared. Oh, Joyce and Sorrows. Okay. I'm sorry. Bear with me. This is time for our joys and sorrows. And if everyone who's able and willing to come up will just come up around here and then go. This part is not recorded, so if you'll just.
I'd like to invite anybody who identifies as a child to join me up here, just for a little conversation, a little movie. There's some really helpful information from our friends at Teen Titans Go that they discuss one of the many cycles that we go through in our lives, and that is the 5 stages of grief. I don't know if any of you have ever heard about what the 5 stages of grief are, but let's watch the movie, and then I'll have a couple questions for you afterwards. Okay? Let's get started.
That was some good chili!
We've been robbed!
Where'd the couch go?
I donated it to the community center. No more couch. No more lazy Sundays.
I hope this does not go on very long. It's only the beginning. There are 5 stages of grief. Stage 1, denial.
Oh, this couch is so comfy, man.
I'm just so glad that the couch is still here, right where it always is.
Stage 2, anger.
I'm so angry!
I'm so that way, too!
Stage 3, bargaining.
Please, 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 please bring it back. We won't ever sit again.
Nope.
How about if we...
No.
You are gonna love this one.
No! And get out!
Stage 4, depression.
I miss you.
Why?
Stage 5, acceptance.
Remember that lump?
Ah, and that mysterious sticky stain.
Yeah, good times.
So, have any of you ever kind of gone through that series of emotions? And if so, tell me about it. What was a time where you experienced all of those stages of emotions? Go ahead, Salvatore. When you thought you couldn't be able to come back here, could you explain a little bit about what you felt?
With my joy and sorrow thing, I moved. I thought I wouldn't be able to come back, and then I talked to Dom and Liz. They said that they could still bring me here, and so yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. If there's anybody else before I ask you, anybody else want to share? Okay.
When my 2 dogs died, kind of spontaneously, I pretty much went through that. And also when I moved from Montana to Utah before also moving here. So those 2 points were very much like that for me.
And what helped you through those moments of grief? Was there anything or anyone that kind of helped you move through times when you felt especially bad?
when my sister moved to Germany, well, pretty much everyone else in my family helped because she was still, well, she was in Germany and my grandparents are there, so she's still with someone with my family. So.
So it sounds like you got to kind of grieve with your family, right? Go ahead.
Well, I went through this stage of grief when my dog Ernie died, maybe a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was really sad.
Sounds like you're still really feeling that one, and you will for a while. Go first.
This one is more about not really going through those stages, but who can help you if you're ever sad or at least going through one of those stages. Friends and family are the biggest ones that can always help you, or people here at church. It's just nice that there's everybody around you, which sometimes you feel like when they're explaining something about something that could be happening to people, and you're going through that, you really feel like you have a connection with the church, and it really kind of just speaks to you sometimes whenever you go to a church and you really feel that.
I love that. Yeah, we grieve together.
People that helped me through those two things were you and my mom for the dogs, because we all did it together and cried over the phone on Physic. And with moving, my friend Evelyn helped me just by being my friend, because we were both really sad I was moving from Utah. And moving from Montana, my entire class helped me because I had a really awesome class in Montana, and I had a really, really fun last day, and it's thanks to my teacher.
It's nice to have people that can support you, that can feel the same things as you go through something difficult. Go ahead, Salvatore.
Speaking of losing dogs, my two dogs, Rosie and Sunshine, I lost them like a year ago. They didn't die, but we had to give them to someone else because the place that we were staying at, we could not bring dogs. And then the people turned their backs on us and then sold the dogs. So,
yeah. It's grief when it comes to expectations not being met or losing something that you feel is really important to you is a really powerful thing too that we'll discuss a little bit later during the sermon. So with that, I really appreciate all of your thoughts and all of your sharing, y'all, and we're going to send you now to continue your faith formation as we sing out. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, may you grow. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go. As we enter this moment in our worship service this morning, in which we connect deeply, perhaps with what we're feeling on the inside, knowing that the folks around us, the people that we love and upon whom we rely, are feeling things too. May we really focus in on the things that we're experiencing in our souls and our emotions right now and this week of trepidation about what might happen this Tuesday. There are lots of big things coming around in this cycle of life that are probably weighing heavily on our hearts. And as we approach those, let's enter this moment of prayer and meditation. Ever created and creative Spirit of love, moving through and around us. Thank you for these moments in our lives, these mornings of togetherness, of community, of love, in which we can return once again to each other, knowing that we are indeed here for each other, that we have a more than vested interest in the flourishing of this whole community and its individual parts. Thank you for the good fortune that exists in our relationships, out of our relationships. Thank you for the continued ability to keep working and keep trying, even when things don't go as we plan, even when we grieve, and also when we celebrate. We keep moving, we reflect, we move through this life together as travel companions. There are a lot of things going on in our world right now, not the least of which is an important election in the United States and each of its states this coming Tuesday, one that holds great meaning for so many folks, that will have a real impact on so many lives, on all our lives. May we continue to offer each other our companionship, our compassion, our love, as we keep moving along this path of change, a path of change that is both political and not political, but it all impacts our lives. May we be stewards of love and justice for each other and for this world. Blessed be, and amen.
Six years ago, we had another election, and it made people very anxious, and it made people frightened. And we had Reverend Gay was here at that time, and she opened this church up, not only to its members and its friends, but to the community. And many people came, and we offered support and love and caring for one another, because we knew that no one knew what was going to happen after this election and this new president. But we came together, and this church opened its doors, and this church said, we have support for you. We care about what happens, and we want to work together. I was here at that meeting, and it touched me so much. And after the meeting was over, I was able to hug one of our members who I knew had worked so hard to get his marriage
legitimized and accepted. And now he was frightened, as I was, for him, that maybe that might not be. So I'm asking you to give generously as you can so that we can keep this church open for all of those who are hurting or who need support and need love, and we're here for them. So will the ushers please come up?
I distinctly remember where I was and what I was doing when it became clear that George W. Bush was going to get his second term and defeat John Kerry in 2004, the first presidential election in which I could vote. I was sitting in a choir rehearsal, singing music that was both very old and some music that was quite new as well, but singing in a choir. A choir of people that I had not really met all that long before, but quickly I was becoming friends with them in a new city in which I virtually knew nobody. I had just moved to Los Angeles. And this choir included my brother's friend and colleague, Robyn. Robyn and I had become buddies also because she joined this community college chorus soon after I did, and we would often carpool together before and after. The choir also included somebody who was to be influential in my path toward studying voice and really focusing on singing as a new craft and a defining aspect of my life. Nikkei St. Clair, who was directing the choir. But it was in the midst of this choir rehearsal on the second Tuesday of November that it became clear George W. Bush was going to win his second term. Many of us were keeping as close an eye on the news on our phones as we were the music in front of us. The gloom in the room, full of mostly like-minded people, was palpable. There was something about mourning that night that was special. While we were singing together, we also grieved together. In many ways, I was fearing for my life, quite literally. At that point, there was still uncertainty about whether a draft was going to be reinstated to force young folks like myself into the invasion of Iraq, a war that I desperately didn't agree with. And yet I was singing, and I was with friends. I was worried, but I was held by community. Now, I also have pretty keen memories of when Barack Obama won his first term. I had been a little bit of a curmudgeon going into that election. I was a very independent, white, cis male in my 20s, feeling like I could do it all on my own, going a little bit of the libertarian route, feeling like any politician was bad. I've since moved beyond those beliefs, yet I still had those beliefs in 2008. And so I didn't actually vote for Barack Obama in that first election. I wrote somebody in, defiantly. I won't tell you who. Now, luckily, my vote was in New York, where it would have little impact. But I spent election evening that year with a lot of really great friends from the Manhattan School of Music, where I was attending as a grad student at the time. I was with friends with whom I had sung so often, friends with whom I shared many common values and interests. We were in the basement apartment in Washington Heights, the apartment of my soon-to-be roommates, Barrage and Spencer, who remain two of my very best friends in the world. I'm actually facing off against Barrage in our fantasy football league today. But we were all in their current apartment the year before we moved in together in Brooklyn. And we were all watching as CNN was keeping track as the polls came in and as they ultimately declared Barack Obama the winner. Not only did I immediately regret my vote, but I also really quickly moved into celebration with everyone in the room. There were some complex emotions emerging inside, but I was with not just the people in the room, but with everyone on the TV, the hordes of folks that were assembled in Grant Park in Chicago, celebrating the huge, momentous moment in the history of the United States, the history of the world. An African American was finally going to be president of the United States, and it became very quickly that President Barack Obama is a pretty awesome, inspiring man, inspiring leader, and was a great leader for 8 years. Now, as much as I appreciated him as leader for 8 years, nothing was perfect in that time stretch. We all know that. Far from it. Especially 2 years later when the so-called red wave of 2010 shifted a fully blue-led Congress and Senate to a fully red-led Congress and Senate, which was the situation then for the remaining 6 years of this presidency. And not to name that I prefer one or the other, this is just for the recording, 6 years were often bittersweet and hard because there was just so much pulling on each other. Nothing ever really got done in that time. It was very difficult for President Obama to enact his policies that almost always aligned with Unitarian Universalist values. These were 6 years in which we saw the so-called Tea Party emerge and eventually make way for the cult of 45. Nevertheless, I was, of course, now much more excited about Obama's second win in 2012. This was the first time somebody I voted for actually won. And that was mostly another night of celebration. And then 2016. That one hurt. In many ways, It still hurts. It's still causing pain for all of us. Its impact still kind of percolating across the country. Now, my worldview had changed significantly by then, and I was already just about to enter seminary. And then this immense shared grief and fear made it all the more clear. It was instantly clear more work needed to be done. And I felt the best way to do that was as a Unitarian Universalist minister. And so I was propelled into a new community of dear friends and colleagues at Meadville Lombard Theological School. The largest class ever at Meadville Lombard entered along with me the school year following 45's election. Ever. And as we began our official ministerial formation together for the next several years, we had many occasions to hold each other, to think about some new strategic ways to counteract the bubbling hate kind of emanating from Pennsylvania Avenue, well, mostly Mar-a-Lago, if we're being honest. My new colleagues and I thought about how progressive folks in the past had indeed been effective and successful in moving us toward progress, toward love, toward justice. We had models, we had exemplars, both ministers and lay folks who were always leading the charge. We reflected on it all together as we held each other in our huge moments of celebration and sadly frequent grief. We got involved with important work at every level of government. And this is now not just the folks within Meadville, but all of Unitarian Universalism and the work that they've done and we have done in You the Vote and other get out the vote efforts. And this was work that I believe was largely effective. And oh, so often we sang together. And then the kind of weird pseudo nightmare that was the 2020 election, which produced both the election result that I feel moved us as a country toward something that more closely resembles beloved community, results which affirmed all the work justice-minded folks had done together for the previous 4 years, results which would come into more focus once more compassionate policies and laws were inevitably passed by this new administration and Congress. Results which would include a gentler tone and rhetoric. Policies that would be life-saving for many people who hurt the most in our country. But amidst celebration, once again, there was a clear division and intersection of deep emotions happening all at once. And the thing that really stung about 2020 is that we, both here and where Janae and I were at the time, California, that we had to wrestle with kind of on our own. We were separated. We couldn't be together in community as much as we really needed. There was constant news and destructive things that churning out every single day between November 2020 and January 2021. The insurrection on Washington, D.C., 45 suggesting to his cult, for lack of a better word, that they should violently force then President Pence, Vice President Pence, to break the law and basically start a coup d'etat. Attempted strong-arming of the Secretary of State here in Georgia. And that was beyond difficult because we weren't able to be with our people. Both to celebrate the good, the potential for growth, the precipice of progress to come out of this moment, and also grieve what looked very much like the dismantling of democracy, another core value that we UUs hold dear, that we practice today. The democratic process is incredibly important to us as a faith, as a people. And this is a messy but defining characteristic of this country as well. I know I was thinking, after all this, are we truly going to be able to maintain this precious democracy at the core connecting piece of our togetherness in the United States? And the answer to that question is still unknown and shaky at best. Now, between then and now, there haven't really been huge elections, not so much. There have been some primaries with huge impact, but the midterm we approach on Tuesday is really the next moment for for us to offer each other a compassionate travel companion through changes that will celebrate and changes that will grieve. Changes that will have an immense impact on all our lives, but mostly on those who already suffer most. There are huge issues that we as a community care deeply about at play here, including reproductive rights, compassionate gun regulations, and the vitality of democracy itself. And we'll be together. We'll love each other. We'll hold each other in our celebrations, which there will be some. We'll have some results that we'll cheer about. And it looks like there's going to be some changes that I personally, at least, will grieve. Regardless of the outcomes, I don't believe that I will let myself get to despair. Because I know that just like all our UU faith ancestors that kept moving, just like you've done as a community for the last 60, 70 years, just like we've done together in the last year and a half that I've been with y'all, we'll hold each other and our grief, our valid grief, all 5 complex stages of it, overlapping all at once. And then we'll reflect on it all. We'll learn from what has happened, we'll develop ourselves, and by doing that important internal work, we'll get right back to the equally important external work. We'll develop and transform this world along a spiral staircase of political path of change. We'll get right back to the mission that we hold dear, to create a beloved community. And we do that each moment that we here in this room, in this Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta, that we embody that beloved community. As we work, as we celebrate and grieve and reflect, as we dream of the world we know to be possible, and as we sing. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too, maybe one. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. brotherhood of human. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Martha Kirby Capo says, "Our time together is finished, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week, of the years to come. The chalice flame is about to be fully extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our communion. Go now in peace, go now in joy, go now in love."